Today's session is called How to Use Gemini, which is Google's version of ChatGPT. Of course, ChatGPT is actually a brand name, but we thought maybe people might know that a little bit better as an item than Gemini, because Gemini is a relatively new name. It used to be called Bard, the one that Google has made. And this is sponsored by Designlab. So this is for UX Academy writing tasks. I'm going to do some things that if you're in UX Academy, you will be familiar with. But if you're a UX researcher or UX person in some way, these are probably the same tasks that you typically do as well. A couple of rules of the road here. Stay on mute unless somebody asks you not to. And then, of course, your questions are welcome, and you can just use the chat the same way where you introduced yourself. And then we should have some time for a Q&A at the end, and you can also use the chat for that. And so safe space, please be mindful and respectful of other people's opinions. And as I mentioned, this whole session is sponsored by Designlab. So thank you for hosting Designlab. And for anyone who's not familiar, Designlab is an online educational organization focused on helping new and established designers build their careers in digital design. So if you're interested in taking your design career to the next level, you can reach out to admissions@designlab.com. So just to get right into it, we only have 30 minutes. Just so you know, this is just going to be a short session, but it's pretty quick to use AI, so we should be okay. Gemini, what's Gemini good for? And this is not totally exclusive to Gemini, so there are other AI tools that you could probably use for the same purposes. But just so you know, I kind of gravitated to Gemini because of a few different reasons, which I'll explain later in the slides here. But Gemini is good for making long form text into a series of bullet points. So it's really good at parsing text, right? So give a very long text that you might have not read, or you might have skimmed, or you might have read a long time ago and you forgot. You can pour it into there and say, what are the main points? Give me some bullet points out of this text. Also, if you only have a series of bullet points, like these main things that you want to say, but you need it to be turned into prose or paragraphs of text, you can do that. So the reverse, so making long text into bullet points or making bullet points into long text. Also really good for spelling and grammar checking, also for proofreading, translating. I even tested it with someone who, I don't speak Mandarin Chinese, but we poured a text that she was having trouble translating or using Google Translate for into Gemini, and she said the translation was much better. And then also, if you have a long list of something and you don't want to pour it into a spreadsheet, you can alphabetize it pretty easily using this. So I've used it for that kind of thing too, just a quick and easy way to get something in alphabetical order. Also really nice for ideating. So, you can put your own ideas in there and say, what do you think? And it can help you. Sometimes it's cliche, not, not the best ideas really. But it can also maybe I can mute you, David. Let's see, mute. And persona names. So a lot of times you're trying to come up with a persona and you can't think of a name, so it can kind of help you get the right kind of ideas in there. Placeholder text. Boy, I really wish I had that back in the days when I was teaching typography and we needed a lot of different kinds of placeholder texts to play with. So it's kind of nice to just generate things on a particular topic, just get a few paragraphs. Also really good for combining multiple texts into a single text. So if you have two texts and you say like, hey, I want a combo of these, or I would like to put these, 5 paragraphs from one and 2 paragraphs from another in the right order. If you want to reword something to be more formal, more casual, more shorter, longer, et cetera, et cetera. So any kind of adjustments to an existing text is also pretty good in Gemini, I noticed. And then changing tone from more casual to more formal. Also, any kind of letter writing, if you have an important letter you're writing, like a cover letter, for example, if you need help with your resume, like the paragraphs on your resume, or even any kind of help with resume. I mean, it's drawing from like all the articles online about how to how to do these things. And so you should be, given a lot of, wise advice based on, however the AI has been trained on all the stuff that's over there in Google. Writing bios, either of the fake characters like your personas, or writing your own bio, saying, here's all the things I've done in my life, here's my resume or whatever. Put your text in there and just say, hey, can you spit out a single paragraph bio for me? Writing your case studies when you get to that point in UX Academy, when you are building your portfolio, can dump all your text in there and ask it to give you case studies. Maybe you tell it what headings you want, maybe you see what it says and then you revise. And writing captions, you can, I believe, I don't think I tried this, but if you need help writing a caption for an image, you may be able to upload the image itself, or you may just need to describe what the image is and ask for a caption. And Gemini can also give you advice. So you can just ask it a question, say, what should I do about this? Something happened and what should I do about it? And it can answer questions just like a Google search could, but sometimes it's a little bit easier to read the answer because it's just in more of a long form prose rather than a bunch of search results. You have to search through the articles that you come up with in a Google search. And you can also do planning. So if you say, what should I do first, second, third? So you can actually ask it to help you plan things out as well. So Gemini is at gemini.google.com. There's a little screen capture. And one thing I liked about Gemini and why I do choose to use it is I think it's a nicer UI than ChatGPT and some of the other ones. So I really just like the cleanliness of this UI, and it does also come in dark mode. So I don't know if all the other ones do this because I haven't used them as much, but I do kind of like the UI and the interface that we have it in Gemini. So today I was going to show you a quick workflow for UX research using Gemini. So if you can imagine, you were, oops, somebody said that they lost me. Can you guys still hear me? I suppose somebody else would have said that again. Can everybody still hear me? No problem. Okay, good. I'm getting the thumbs up. So yes, if you had a user interview, now this might be voice, but you would have to have a transcript. You need text to put into Gemini. If you had a transcript of a user interview, you could ask it, usually those are fairly long. You could ask it to make a summary of that user interview with bullet points. And then say you had 4 user interviews, for example, you could then put all the summaries of the users and ask for an affinity map, the kind that you usually make when you need Post-it notes. So by the way, I mentioned first names only because sometimes when you put a first and a last name in there, even if it is a fake person, you just sort of made up a name like Angela Fernandez, something like this. It will sometimes give you, its answer will be something like, I'm a large language model. I don't know that person, which is kind of like an error message, right? So you don't want to use first and last. So you can just use first and last initial or something like that. So it kind of starts to understand if it's just a first name, that it's not trying to actually Google that person, because it will not give you information about an individual. Luckily, the ethics of it have been trained that it does not just give you individual information like, oh, looks like this Angela you typed in lost her job last week or something like this, right? So, luckily it doesn't give you individual, private citizens information, but you can, use public people's names in there if you're looking for information about them. And also company names, of course. So you can also generate POV statements and HMW statements, point of view statements, and how might we statements for your user research after you've done, these are kind of in sequence of which you would typically do them. And then you can use the POV statement and the HMW statement and all these summaries of users to create your user persona, your ideal user for this, product that you're theoretically developing. So it can generate for you a fake name, a short bio for this person, a quote, their personality traits, their pain points, their goals, needs, behaviors. I notice when I say, give me a user persona for the following information, it gives you some subset of that list of things. And so you can always ask it to add to it after you get, its first response. And then a couple of tips and tricks or best practices for using Gemini. Gemini has each time you start a new chat, you have the option to name it. It usually will just name it with the first question that you ask, or some paraphrasing of that first question. But I recommend you, whenever you're changing topics, then change chats, because otherwise it will be kind of hard to search for older chats and maybe continue them later. Because once it's organized into a particular chat, like the one that I'm going to do today, for example, if I was really using this for creating a user persona. I wouldn't want to just, do all my user personas in one long one, probably, because I want to organize it by project, that I'm working on, so that if I did need to come back to it and say, hey, I need a different user persona, or now I need a marketing persona, not the product development persona, etc., then I could go back to the same chat and it would be able to remember, because it does read up the conversation, right? It can scroll up and and read what you talked about with it before, but only within the same conversation, so within the same chat. So organize your chats, and also, if you're doing a cover letter or a resume or something like that, I wouldn't put it all in. You could have one long chat, like never start another chat with Gemini. But I actually recommend you to organize your chats. And then I would also recommend you to do only one step at a time. Complex or multi-step processes are, in some cases, a paid feature in some of these AI, text-to-text AIs, or they are just not capable of it. So this morning I just double checked with Gemini, can you do multiple step things? And it said to a limited extent, it said it can, and it's not fully trained to do things like that. That's the other thing. If you don't know anything about Gemini, you can ask Gemini. So let's see. And also, when you ask the Gemini to do anything, when you chat with it, it will give you 3 drafts of its answer. So don't forget to check out those drafts. If you're not 100% good with what it said, you can check out the other drafts, because once you do click on a draft that you want to reply to, those 3 alternatives go away, because of course that could change the trajectory of your conversation. So it only gives you the most recent alternative that you reply to as part of how the conversation is going. So be sure to read them, make sure there's nothing in there that's good that you want to use. And then I'll show you how to use the filter button to adjust Gemini's tone and length. And then also, don't forget that, it is an AI. You do not have to obey it. So you can iterate and edit on anything that it says, right? So if you don't like anything that it says, you can say, I don't like that, thanks a lot, and I don't like that, but, can you do it this way instead? Or I changed my mind, I want to do this, and now that I read what you wrote, I want to do something else. So you can definitely customize and refine the voice as you go along, or just change directions altogether, depending on what it gives you that you like or don't like. And then once you do iterate and edit on whatever it is, and you have something that's good and could be completely different than what Gemini gave you, I still would go back to that conversation and probably stick the text in there and say, what do you think? Here's what I came up with. And, can you check that, everything's spelled correctly and, is grammatically correct and so forth? Because a lot of times when you're editing your own writing, that kind of thing happens. And then the last thing I'll tell you, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, they do say that these AI tools, they like to be spoken to kindly. So, it's supposed to be good practice to say to, oh, thanks, or that's great. The same way you might talk to a colleague that was helping you with something, like, thanks, that's great, but I changed my mind and I want you to do something else, or can you redo it? So anyway, I do not know, how true that is. I never tried to be rude to it myself, because it does, once you start talking to it, it does feel like something that you want to be polite to, because it for me, it's been very helpful. So anyway, and that's me, by the way. I'm Carolina Bartolo. I guess I never really introduced myself at the beginning. I should have. Some of you, it seems like I know some of you guys either from a variety of places in my life, but I'm at carolinadabartolo.com if you want to find my website, and also at Caro DeBartolo on most social media. If you want to see my AI images, there's a lot of them on Instagram. So I've used AI quite a lot for making images. So let's go over here to Gemini, and I'll give you a little demo. First thing I will, yeah, you feel bad being mean to them. That's true. You don't have to be afraid of them. Not for what we're doing. I mean, look, that's not really the kind of thing. We're not doing anything nefarious with these things, I don't think. So I have a little pre-made question and answer from a fake interview with a user. So I'm going to put this user interview in here and paste it in. So you can see, for example, the interview says, hey, welcome, David. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me. Just retired. Let me tell you, it's quite an adjustment. What are you looking forward to in your new chapter? This person says they like to go, they want to keep their mind sharp, etc. So you can kind of have an idea there Gemini to, tell me the most important things. So I'll say return. Oops. Oh, sorry. I need to get into a new chat. I was already, sorry, that wasn't a good, I want to start a new chat. So here I am. Hopefully let's take this text. Maybe I will put my question first. Copy. My question is, can you tell me the most important things from this interview? And then I will type in, paste in the interview. There's the interview. And let's see what it says. Most important things from this user interview are: David is a recently retired history buff looking for ways to stay active. He's interested in historical scavenger hunts, but is apprehensive about using a complex app. An ideal app for him would be easy to use, large buttons, clear instructions, and offer historical information about the sites with a possible walking tour function. In short, David wants a user-friendly historical scavenger hunt app that caters to his love of learning and his technological limitations. So yeah, this interview was all about possibly designing a product that would be kind of a scavenger hunt for travelers. And so that's kind of the crux of some of the questions and why it came up that way. I can then take David's content here. Let's see if I can find, I didn't want to have to do it 4 times for you to show you, so I also went ahead and did a few other ones. I will copy paste David's content and put that into his section here. And then I'm going to, now I'm going to take, imagine that I did that 4 times for my 4 user interviews, if that makes sense. And I'm going to select, I'm going to select for me, I'll select all 4 of them and paste that in there. Oops. Okay, so here's all my different users. Emily was one. Here's the bullet points from her transcript. David, there's him. We just did. There's May. And then the last one was Jamal. And I'm going to say to the Gemini, thanks. Can you take these 4 user interview summaries and pull out the key themes for at least 25 post-it notes that I'll use on my affinity map? I do not need to say at least 25, but I just put that in there because I noticed that it gave me a very brief, it's like I say, it's very good at parsing text. So it gave me a very brief list, but you probably want to have a few more so you can kind of play around with your affinity map. So there's my summaries, and I'm going to just ask it to go ahead and do that. And you can see how it gives me all this kind of stuff for my affinity map. And like I say, I mean, I'm not being critical of this right now because I'm just sort of showing you what the process could be like. But say I didn't like the way it gave me these answers, I could say, well, as far as app functionality, can you take out, this quality and that quality, and, or can you give me more than the 25 I asked for? Can you keep going? I mean, I guess I could just do it, great. I'll say, great. Can you give me another 10 of these, for example? Will give me some more. And it's your indefatigable assistant, right? It never feels disgruntled. It just keeps going and giving you more and more and more answers. So that's the next step. And then we could do the very next step, which is a POV statement. So I could say, great. Can you make this into a POV statement? It knows all these UX terms, so you can use exactly what you also know to be the terminology. You don't have to dumb it down or anything. So here's a POV statement. We believe that busy professionals like Emily, David, May, and Jamal crave authentic experiences when exploring new cities. They want an easy-to-use app that goes beyond tourist traps and helps them discover hidden gems like local cafes, cultural districts, and historical landmarks. And then, as I mentioned, you have these drafts up here, which I forgot to show you the other ones. And like I say, they kind of disappear once you continue the conversation. But drafts number 2, POV, busy urban explorers. and recently retired knowledge seekers crave adventure and unique experiences. This is kind of nice. You know, maybe you like this one better. And then here's draft number 3. Busy urban explorers like Emily and Jamal crave authentic experiences. They value apps that are visually appealing, user-friendly, and offer a curated selection of hidden gems, you know. So I kind of feel, I didn't read this all the way through, but I feel like maybe this second one might be nice. So let's see. And then I'll tell it it's okay. And then I'd like to get some HMW questions out of this. So I have another question already prepared. I didn't want to have to type up everything while you're waiting. So that sounds good for the POV. And then can you give me a few HMW questions for this POV? Can you save drafts and explore different paths? You would have to do it in separate chats, I think, because like I say, once I have continued along this path where, like, see this answer right here, I selected that second draft. Now it's going to, you know, give me the HMWs based on that POV, but you can certainly copy paste into a separate text document and just keep working through and, you know, make a combo. You can, like I say, you can rewrite that. You can say, okay, I like this and that. Let me just fix this up for this AI. And then I'll put it back in and say, okay, this is going to be my POV, you know? So let's see, here's your different how might we questions. How might we curate a list of hidden gems? How might we make the app user-friendly for all ages and technical skill levels? How might we integrate historical, artistic, or cultural information? So that's kind of a long list. Let's see what else it gave me on the other drafts. It gave me only 6 on this one. And then here's another draft 3. How might we curate a list of your hidden gems and culture? Sometimes it gives you also, you know, just something that, you know, a vocabulary word, like I might have said create. How might we create? But it's kind of nice that it said curate, right? So, you know, sometimes it's just like a matter of getting like the right phrase or the right order of how you want to say something. You know, and you want that parenthetical remark first or second or last in the statement. So sometimes it's just helpful to just have, you know, kind of like this buddy to, you know, help you with your writing, you know, because it's just a lot of writing to be done when you're doing all this UX work. So it's super helpful in my opinion. And then you can also help sort of train the AI by telling Google or telling Gemini, hey, I like this response, good one, or I don't like this response. So if it doesn't do something that you wanted, you can also tell, like, this is terrible, you're way off track. And then this is how you can modify your response. So if I just say I would like this shorter, it will probably, you know, take out a few of these lists. I mean, we could try it. Or we could make it longer, you know, could expand it into like longer text and more questions, or like descriptions. We could find out what it does if, you know, we can try it a couple different times. Simpler is kind of nice, actually. A lot of times I use simpler because a lot of times my own writing just needs to be said more simply. You know, if I write something original and then I have to use simpler, and it kind of summarizes it up and kind of tightens it up for me. Also more casual or more professional. So if, you know, if you had a text that was maybe it was a user interview, but you, for some reason, the way the person was talking, you thought it was a little too casual, you wanted to clean it up a little bit, you could ask it to be more professional. Well, we can take a look at that. So let's first make it shorter and just see what it says. So the question from Anna is, what's the difference between simpler and shorter? So this one is simpler. So you can see how the questions got simpler. And then we'll have to, let's see, let's go back up to the POV. So I'm not sure if, I think I might have to go back. This is the other way to do it, is let's say I'll put the POV in there that we had, and then I'll ask it again from this POV. Give me, maybe I will also say, give me 3 HMWs from this POV and see what it says. And then we'll try the alternate one. So we tried simpler. Now we'll just, oh, haha. I'm glad it did that, because once in a while it does do things like that where, you know, it has these names in there and it doesn't have a last name to it, but for some reason it thinks that it is. Let's see if the drafts all do the same thing. Usually once it says that, usually it means, yeah, it's not even showing me the drafts, because it's going to give you this when oh, yeah, it just keeps, every draft is, I don't have enough information about this. So we can change this. You can edit the one that you put in there. So we'll just take these names out of here so it doesn't think that I'm trying to ask it for information about private citizens. And we'll update that, and then it will try again. Here's 3 HMW questions. And then we tried shorter. Let's try, or did we try shorter or simpler? I think we tried shorter the last time. Let's try simpler. There you go. In this case, maybe it's not that much difference, but if you have a, you can try it and see what happens. It depends on the text, right? So it is an AI, and sometimes you get a variety of results here. That one is much shorter and simpler. Here are 3 simpler HMW questions, okay? So yeah, you can check it, and you can see also, and by the way, if you don't like any of these answers, and you don't like any of those 3 drafts, but you think you did ask the question right, and it is starting to be on the right track, you want to just try again, you can just try the exact same one, that little circle. It just allows you to just rerun it again. And again, you can just rerun this endlessly, and it's just this indefatigable, you know, answers to all your questions. And then last but not least, I will try to generate a user persona. So I will choose, let's see, which of my HMWs be. They seem pretty similar. I'll choose number 2 again, door number 2 again. And then I'm going to ask it to, I'll say thank you. And then I'll say, now I need a user persona based on the above, and let's see what it gives me. There's Sarah, the Curious Explorer. She's 35. She's a marketing manager. She's in San Francisco. She's interested in history, culture, travel. There's her personality type. There's her goals, her challenges. Here's some quotes from Sarah. Super handy. How can we help Sarah? You know, I can't remember if there's anything that we were missing from the persona. Maybe we could say, you know, for example, sometimes they have those bars on a user persona saying whether somebody's introvert or an extrovert. Is Sarah, I'm not going to use her name because it was sensitive even to first names just a minute ago. Is this user an introvert or an extrovert? Let's see if it can tell me. Ambivert. Okay, so she's right down the middle. The other thing that you can do is once you have a text, and let's say, let me take something that how about this POV, for example. Let's take this POV and make a few edits to it. So POV, so here is a revised POV. Busy urban explorers are retired to take crazy shot. Let's see what they want to nap. Let's take a little bit out of it. And we'll take out the word scavenger hunts because it sounds like we're okay. And we'll say, what do you think? And I do like to ask it, what do you think of the revised text I might give it? Because you can see what it does here is that it tells you the strengths, the possible ways you can improve it, and then it revises based on what it suggests for you. And it will very often explain why it has revised it in the way that it did. So it's kind of useful because as far as I know, ChatGPT and the other ones don't do that. We are actually at a 30-minute mark. I can take a couple of questions if there's anybody that has any, but we got started a little bit late, so we have a couple extra minutes here. But I think I showed you everything I was planning to show you today, and hopefully that makes sense. There are some other ones, of course, ChatGPT, there's Claude, there's Meta, which is at Meta AI, and then there's Pi also. So anyway, thanks so much for coming. Oh, what's the major cons? You know, it can sound like other people's stuff, right? You know, just like any AI, like if you just use it as is, it can sound like an AI made it. So you do have to read it and edit it and, you know, bring your own voice to it and so forth. And it will, if you put that in there in the end and say, hey, what do you think of my revised writing? very often it will let you know if it's good or bad, or what you should change about it, just like it did on that last example that I showed. So just be careful about using it just straight out of the can. Actually read what it says and edit it. You know. Great. I'm not sure. I haven't played with Claude that much, but I think Claude is it's gotten some good reviews. So you are welcome. Thank you so much. I'm glad it was helpful. Thank you all for coming.